Hi, mathematicians. We're coming today with a little lesson here on solving equations using two or more operations. This is definitely, most likely, going to be a review of your math class last year, but let's take a look. Let's see what we remember. So let's just go ahead and get into it and read problem number 1, if you'll read along with me. It says a student's grades on 3 math tests were x, x plus 5, and x minus 2. Why don't they just give us the darn scores? I mean, they're giving it to us in this abstract way. What we do know, before I even keep reading, is that, the second test here was 5 points more than the first test. I mean, if we're going to call the first test x as the score, and then we add 5 to it, we must have done better on the second test than we did on the first test. And then that third test is the first test minus 2, so we did a little bit worse. So it's kind of like we had a baseline score, we improved, and then we actually did a little worse. Okay, if the total number of points scored on the 3 tests was 273, what was the student's average, and what was the individual score on each test? Okay, so I'm seeing some key ingredients here. I'm seeing those 3 test scores. So what I'd like to do is take a highlighter here and go over those. And I'm going to come underneath. One thing I always like to do in algebra is define what my letters represent. If I know that, it doesn't seem quite as abstract. So right now, the letter X is just holding the place for the student's first math test score. So now when I see that, I'm like, okay, the student scored something on the first math test. We're going to call that X because we don't know what it is yet. So we're going to let this letter take the place of that right now. Okay, then I know that X plus 5 more points is the student's second math test score. And it seems so much easier when I write it out like this than if I have it in this paragraph form. And finally, I know that x minus 2 will equal the student's third math test score. Don't be afraid to write. Writing helps your brain sort things out. So there we have it. Now, we know another key ingredient, which is this number 273. We know that when we add all the points together, when we add these together, our total is 273 points. So the way I'm going to show that in algebra is I'm going to add these 3 expressions together and set it equal to the total, 273. So that might look something like this. I'll take x, and I'm going to add x plus 5, and I'm going to add x minus 2. And I'm going to set that equal to 273. Okay, let me highlight over those 3 test scores again. So first test plus second test plus third test makes total. And the rest is history. Now all I have to do is I can combine my like terms over here. I've got 1, 2, 3 x's because the coefficients on these guys are 1. So 1x plus 1x plus 1x is going to be 3x. And when I combine a positive 5 with a minus 2, 5 minus 2 is a positive 3. And this equals 273. Now to solve this equation, I'm going to subtract this 3 from both sides so that these cancel, and these cancel by a property called the additive inverse. When you add a number to its opposite, those are additive inverses and they strike out to 0. So now I'm going to come over here, I've got 3x equals 273 minus 3 is just 270. Now I can divide both sides by 3. You know this from your prior math course. And my x is going to be, and I'm going to appeal to my TI here, unless you know this one by heart, 270 divided by 3 is 90. So 90 is x. Okay, now one of the things we have to look at is what do they want from us? They do want to know the score on each test. So let's start there. I already have the first test. So x was the student's first math test score. I'm going to now say that that was 90. X plus 5 was the student's second math test score. So I have to take that 90 plus 5, 95. So they did better on that second test. And finally, the third test was 90 minus 2. So they got an 88 on the third test. So there are my 3 test scores. But they ask for something else. They also ask for the student's average. Now, if you remember how to average, what you do is you find the mean. That's another word for average. So you're going to add these 3 together, get a subtotal, and then you're going to divide by 3 because you have 3 test scores. So the average, I'll just say AVG for average, is going to be 90 plus 95 plus 88. So let's get that subtotal. Clear this out. So 90 plus 95 plus 88. That's we should have known that. Oh, Miss Callahan. 273, but we already knew that. That's a good check. Then I have to take that and divide by 3. Divided by 3. And so the student's average is a 91. So the average is a 91. I could have found that average just knowing the total. Wasn't thinking too smart there. I was working harder, not smarter. Okay, so that's number 1 all complete. Let's take a look at number 2. An estimate of a person's accurate typing speed is given by the formula S equals, and look at this thing. This is crazy. S equals W minus 5E all divided by 10, where, now they're going to start identifying variables, where S, let me capitalize that, S is the accurate speed in words per minute. So S is the speed in words per minute. How many words you can type per minute. That's your S. W is the actual number of words typed in 10 minutes. W is the words typed in 10-minute time period. E is the number of errors made during the test. Okay, E is the errors made during the test. Okay, an applicant for a job requiring typing was told that he had an accurate typing speed of 36 words per minute. So his speed is 36 words per minute. So guess what? For speed, S, they're giving me 36. So S is 36. During the 10-minute test, he typed a total of 400 words. So his words is equal to 400. They're giving me that. Sweet. What do they want me to find? How many errors did he make? This is what we need to find, E. So using my equation here, S equals W minus 5E all over 10. I'm going to plug in the things I know and solve for the things I want. So my S is 36. So 36 equals, put a little colon here, separate it. 36 equals W, which is 400, minus 5E, E is what we want to find, all over 10. And now I can just solve this equation for E. So think back to your last course on solving equations. The first thing I'm going to do, because I have this fraction here with the 10 on the bottom, the operation that undoes division is multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply get a different color here. I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides of this equation by 10. What will happen then is these 10s will strike out, and I'm left with 10 times 36, which is 360. And here I'm just going to be left with 400 minus 5e. Now I want to get e by itself, so I'm going to actually move the 400 over to this side. So I'm going to subtract 400 from both sides. Cancel out my 400s. 360 minus 400 is negative 40, and that's going to be equal to negative 5e. And my final step to get e alone will be to divide by negative 5. And so I'm going to come over this way. Negative 40 divided by negative 5 is 8, and so that's going to be my e. So this student made 8 errors during his 10-minute test. Student made 8 errors during the 10-minute test, the typing test. Excellent. Last example, flip it to the back. Problem number 3. What is the measure of each angle in the parallelogram shown below? Hint, the sum of the measures of the angles is 360 degrees. The sum of the angles is 360. Now we know that the word sum means add. So basically what we have here is if we add up all these angles, we're going to get a sum of 360. And of course, they're being very abstract with us with these x's. So why don't we just do it? We know that if we take 2x minus 15, that's this one, plus another 2x minus 15, plus an x, plus an x, we get 360. Simple enough. So here are my 4 angles. Here's angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Total is 360. These pluses are just summing them up. Now we combine like terms. 2x plus 2x plus 1x plus 1x is 6x. 2, 4, 5, 6. And negative 15 plus negative 15 is negative 30, and this equals 360. Solving this equation, we're going to add 30 to both sides. That's going to cross these out and give me 6x equals 390. Divide by 6, divide by 6, x equals, let's take 390 divided by 6, 65. So the angles that are marked as x are going to be 65 degrees. So if I come up to my parallelogram, let me redraw it here. This is how I'm going to present my answer. So these 2 angles, the x and the x, I have that value. This is 65 degrees and this is 65 degrees. Now to find these 2 angles, I simply take x, 65, and take 2 times 65 minus 15. So if I take 2 times 65, 2 times x minus 15, 115 degrees for this guy and this guy. And there is my final answer, all my angles in place.